let's talk about my August reads. So, a lot of like books that I wasn't really impressed with. Okay, so just let you know. So, the first one. This one is called Whispers in the Dark. It was by Nicole Knight and Lily Mayne. So, I gave this a 2. It's part of this Black Oasis #1. So, we have the characters of Cody and Noor. As this book was depressing as fuck and not in an enjoyable... It wasn't an enjoyable reading experience. It really was depressing. So, So Cody is the nurse/maid to his family. He cooks, cleans, drives his stepdad to doctor's appointments. His stepdad is a major piece of shit, and that's just saying lightly. He treats Cody horribly by telling him that he is a mistake because Cody's mom cheated on the stepdad years ago, and that's how Cody came into existence. Cody is a redhead with freckles, so doesn't match his family at all. So the stepdad never lets Cody forget it. The stepdad is essentially dying because he has cirrhosis of the liver and he is diabetic. But he doesn't do anything to change his diet or stop drinking. I said also Brad, Cody's half-brother and the father's real son, is a piece of shit as well. He treats Cody horribly. He physically abuses and bullies Cody on the daily. Brad also is an enabler, where he always gets his dad bad food to eat. And Brad is also an alcoholic, and from my reading experience, is also bi-curious, or he is like bi/gay, and he doesn't want to admit it or hates that he is that way. Because he seems like he wants to get intimate with Cody, which is still incest, because if you come from the same mom, which that's what my assumption was, that they come from the same mother but different dads, it's still incest. He very much gave off the creepy vibes. Cody's mom is barely in the story, and honestly, she's supposed to be the only one who treated Cody well, but she's a shell of a woman and has basically given up on life. She works overtime so she could pay the bills, but to also spend as much time as she can away from her family. So Cody works from home on his computer, and lately at night he's been having nightmares. And one night, a sleep demon, Noor, lets Cody know that he is there under Cody's bed. Sleep demons feed off of humans' nightmares. So Noor and Cody every night talk while Cody is getting ready for bed, and they get to know each other and become sexually attracted to each other to the point where they start to get each other off. Yeah. So the daytime parts of the story, I'm assuming were written by Nicole Knight, were so depressing and sad, and I honestly could have done without them. So I said Cody lived a bad life, so I can understand why he wanted to escape his reality and why he also suffered from nightmares. I said the nighttime scenes were better, and I'm assuming were written by Lily Mayne, but this reminded me too much of her Monstrous series. I said Noor, the creature Noor, reminded me too much of Wynn from Soul Eater. Also, I would say, because he was black in skin and he lived underground, he reminded me too much of Greed from the Greed, or I think Greed, I'm going to say Greed, from Berries and Greed, the one I just read like last month, reminded me too much of that. I said Noor even had a very similar sexual anatomy as Wynn, and Lau, a character from Noor's world, reminded me of Moth from the Monstrous series, so it seemed like Lily Mayne was copying her own characters to create this sleep demon character, which makes the author look lazy in her writing, or she doesn't even remember her previous character's anatomy. I said overall this was okay, but I was bored throughout most, or saddened. It was very depressing. It was a very depressing story, and someone actually had commented on my review and said that the characters seemed way too similar to like the Monstrous series, and it almost seems like I think Lily Mayne recently had a baby, so it's a possibility maybe she's stretching herself too thin as an author, and she's kind of like, going and connecting with these other authors. And I will say, if that was Nicole Knight's writing during the day, I don't want to read anything else from that author. It was so sad. It's basically a white trash family that is a shitty family that really shouldn't be together at all. Why the father would choose to stay with this woman who cheated on him. Why would you stay with her then? And why would you go and take it out on her son? So when this fucker died, I didn't care. Because he did die. I didn't give a shit about him. Because the guy was a piece of crap. If there is such a place as hell, I hope he's fucking burning in it. Because he was a piece of shit. And he treated that boy horribly. So yeah, wasn't a good reading experience. So, the next one I ended up reading, not a fan. I was not a fan of this either. I gave it a 3. So I ended up reading Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. You know what? I think I liked Tessa Bailey more when she was an indie author. Now that she's like traditionally published, I'm not really a fan of her work. I'm just not a big fan. A lot of her stuff I end up, it's kind of mediocre to me. It's like, it's okay, but I just wasn't really impressed. So I said, this characters here were August Cates and Natalie Voss. So I said, I was tired of hearing about rich people problems. And that's essentially what this was. She was this like rich heiress or whatever it is. Her family, created wine. So she, grew up knowing about how to make wine and different things like that. So I said, I have realized that I enjoy Tessa Bailey as an indie author and not this author who does these romantic comedies. I said, I DNF'd the book before this, so I was hoping I would enjoy this one better. I said, this book mostly bored me. The sex scenes were interesting, but not to the quality I remember from the author. I said, also, August was a total simp for Natalie, and I don't know why, because she didn't treat August well. So this one here basically has it to where obviously they met in the previous book, and I had DNF'd that previous book, so I was kind of a little bit lost. Like, okay, how are these characters introduced? Natalie is the sister of the guy who was in the first book of this one. I think it was called Secretly Yours or something like that. I think that's what it was called. So he's obviously got married to the chick that was in the first book, and then Natalie is pretty much like, she wants to, kind of like do her own thing. She wants to do her own thing. Her family just don't seem very like supportive of her at all. And I'm like, y'all are a bunch of shitty people. Like, her whole family, was just not good people. For rich people, they definitely were shitty people. You'd think they'd be better, with them having money and shit. So they were not good people. And so she essentially needs to marry. And so he goes and he, helps her out by marrying her. So that way she can get like her inheritance. I think that's what it was. And then he needs like her money to help him out because he decided to create this business that he knew nothing of. He decided to go and like, let's go and open up my own winery, and you don't know anything about fucking wine or how to create it. So this fucking dude decides to, he's a former military guy, and he decides he wants to go and create a winery in his friend's name because his friend had died in war. And he has some kind of like survivor's guilt and all that stuff because he's like, oh, well, I should have did better. And it's like, dude, it's in war. There's only so much that you can do, So his friend wanted to open up this winery. Friend probably knew more about wine than this fucking idiot did. So he decides he wants to go and open up this winery. So he goes, and his wine don't taste good. Because you have to have a way of knowing how to do it. You know, I don't know how to do wine. So I'm not going to open up a winery. I have no idea how to make wine. So, this guy's in way over his head. You know, all the tastings are just terrible, you know, because I guess they could taste the vinegar in it. And it's like, well, if you taste the vinegar, maybe it hasn't aged enough, or maybe you put too much vinegar in. I mean, obviously there is a process to it where you can do a little bit here, a little bit there type of thing in order to make a good wine, you know? So he decides to marry her, and the dude's like been, you know, dude's been kind of like obviously obsessed with her. And I don't know, I didn't feel the connection with the characters. There was times like he annoyed me because she's like, oh, well, you should probably do this. And he's like, oh, I don't need any help. And it's like, you don't need any help from the woman who grew up around wine and probably knows the process of how to make it. But you don't need help? You don't need help. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go fail. Go fail. You know, oh, you know, there were times that she annoyed me, but then he started doing shit to annoy me, you know? And then, like I said, when it came to like sex scenes, it was kind of like a little more cringe than it was like hot. You know, usually Tessa Bailey is always usually good when it comes to like, you know, her intimate scenes are usually always pretty good. But lately, I have not been enjoying them. So yeah, I'm tired of like these romantic comedies, and that seems like what she kind of keeps putting out. I really enjoyed her like series that she did with like the vampires and stuff like that, the Vampires and the Slayers. I really enjoyed that series. That series did not get like a lot of people talking about it, but it was a pretty good series. I need to reread that series again, but that was something that she did that was different. That I was like, oh, I actually like this, because it wasn't like overly paranormal. Like, you know, there's some paranormals that's too much paranormal, and it's like way too much world building and all that stuff. With that, it was like I can kind of like, you know, understand the story a little bit. So this here, it's like, I don't know, she's been like writing a lot of books where it's like rich people, you know, or somebody's rich in the book, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care about rich people. I'm so tired of seeing like these rich people books, or like you end up seeing like, I could look at some of the authors and I'm like, that person came from money. I can look and be like, this person came from money. So it's like, to me, it's like, I don't relate to these authors, like their stories, you know, I just don't relate to them. They're so far like out of touch with reality, you know? And that's what it is with a lot of people who are rich. They have no sense of reality because they've constantly lived with wealth and money. They never had to struggle, you know? So it's like this rich author is writing about rich characters, you know? So I don't relate to this, you know? I don't relate to wine country because I've never been there, you know? I never been to, I'd say like, I've been to maybe a winery or two, but I never drank the wine. Like, I think one place I went to that was a winery, I was invited there because my husband's sister, her child was getting married. So they did it at this winery, you know, which was like, you know. And then there was another place we were invited to that was basically a winery, and it was like a buffet or something. And yeah, I felt way out of place there. I don't feel comfortable around people with wealth because they probably could sniff the poor off of me. So yeah, I was not a fan of this book. And the other books I read were a part of my vlog. If you haven't checked out my vlog, you know, check those out. Those were all with Kate Bateman. So I read all of those. And then the last two I will discuss is I ended up reading Secrets at Sunset. This is a forbidden romance novella. This is part of Beauville. It says Beauville Book 2. It probably should be like 1.5 or something because it's a novella. So I gave this a 3. So this one here, we have the characters of Reed and Anna. And what did I have for a highlight? So this one here was a quick novella in the Beauville series. I said, I don't know why, but I didn't love this. So we're first introduced to Anna at 15. And Reed is about 21, 22, I think, around there. And Anna is at a mature party that she doesn't feel safe at, so she calls her brother, but Reed picks up the phone. He goes to the party just in time because another guy is trying to assault her. Yeah. Then we have a time jump, because why not, you know? I hate when authors do this. They do a time jump in a novella. Don't do that. You could have just skipped over that whole fucking beginning part. So I said, we have a time jump. I said, I'm always a fan of that, especially in a novella. I said, the author could have skipped over that whole beginning scene because I didn't feel comfortable knowing that he had feelings for her since they were younger. I said, there is at least a 7-year age gap. I said, when you are older, it doesn't really matter with having an age gap. Like if a guy is 50 and a woman is 30, it's a little bit better of an age gap because the woman is a mature adult, you know? So, but I said, she's basically a child when he started having sexual feelings for her. It gave off a creeper vibe. You know, like he started feelings for her when she was like a teen. And so he tried to stay away from her. And it's like, it's kind of creepy, dude. It's kind of creepy. I know you didn't like, you know, you didn't like push it and everything, but still, it's like you started having romantic feelings for her, like when she was like young. Yeah, kind of creepy. So I don't know, it creeped me out, kind of, you know, like yeah, not really a fan. I said, then 7 years goes by, so she's around 21 or 22, and he's around 29, and he's still sexually attracted to her, and she has feelings. She had feelings for him for years. You know, she had a crush, puppy love. You know. She wants to open up a dance studio and her family doesn't want her to. And I wasn't a huge fan of her family and how they didn't believe that she could do it on her own. I said, her family rubbed me the wrong way. I said, she's an adult and she needs to make those decisions for herself. So the only person who was pushing her to pursue her dreams is Reed. So I wasn't a fan of the sex scenes in this. I said, Reed goes from treating her like broken glass to dominating her in the bedroom. It just kind of like, it switched too much for me. And I was just like, not a fan. I said, I don't know what this is. I don't know what it is, but I have not been feeling contemporary romances lately. Everyone keeps trying to cater to the TikTok crowd where the sex scenes feel more like fucking and less like about passion and love. It doesn't seem like to me, it just seemed more about like, you know, them kind of getting it on than actual like love making and everything. Because there's a difference between, you know, banging it out and being intimate with somebody, you know, having a connection with somebody. It's a different thing. So to me, it just felt more of like, let's go and put in these highly sexualized scenes, you know. And like I said, my romances, the way I like my romances, I have to feel the passion and the love with the characters. I got to feel that build up, you know. So honestly, if I was the editor for this, I would have taken out that whole beginning part because that did not need to be in there. She could have taken out that whole beginning part. And they could have had it to where it started with where maybe he's remembering her when they were younger and be like, yeah, he had he liked her. Because then it wouldn't give off that creepy vibe, you know, like he was sexually attracted to a 15-year-old, you know. So she could have totally lived without that. You know, we didn't need that beginning scene to tell us about these characters. It was not necessary. And they could have had a little bit more build up to the romance. It could have left the novella for that buildup of the romance, where it's like, they already know each other, so there already is a connection. So let's build on that, you know? And I just didn't feel it. I did not feel it. So that's why I ended up giving it a 3. So the last one I read, because the current one I was just reading, I had DNF that one. I just wasn't feeling it. That's why I said it's kind of not a good month for me. With the exception of like the books that I read in my vlog, I liked those books. Or at least 3 out of 4. So this last one I read, I believe I saw this from somebody on Instagram before I deleted my Instagram, but another channel I watch, I'll Be Reading Romance, she had told me about this one. She did a video on this, so I decided to check this one out because it's a erotic door romance. Unhinged by Vera Valentine. This was definitely different. I gave it a 3. So we got the characters of Tana and Dries. She calls him Dries. So this was definitely more of a... I would definitely call this more of a fantasy. Because it had like this magical element to it. Because the character was a door. An actual door. And she's doing things to the knob. Intimate things. Yep. So, it was okay. But like I said, it had a magical element to it. Where he's able to turn into like a real live man. Yeah. So it had that aspect to it. And then it had like this kind of... almost like a suspense to it, because she is basically being stalked and preyed on from the guy who is the landlord of the apartment complex. The guy's a creeper. The guy's a major creeper. And so the door has to basically save her, help her, you know, when it comes to the creeper. It was interesting. I'll give it that. I didn't love it though. I gave it a 3. It was okay. It was decent. I think what I think I didn't like about it, it was too kind of insta love, and I just wasn't a fan of it. It was like too much insta love where she fell for him like, you know, right away, and I'm just like, And I know that it's short, you know, like it's only so many pages. Like, how many pages was this? 71 pages. So yeah, obviously the, you know, the author has to do as much as she can with 71 pages, but she could have expanded it a little bit more to kind of like build a little bit more of a romance. This was definitely more erotica, you know, which that's what it states on there, that it is an erotica. It just was a little bit silly. It was a little bit silly to me. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I would say like most of the books I read this month were pretty much duds. Let me see. I think I only had 2 4-stars and 1 5-star. Yeah. Pretty much. Otherwise, I had a 2-star, a 3-star, another 3-star, and 2 other 3 stars. So yeah, yeah, not a great month. I'll just say that. Not a great month. I'm hoping that September will be a little bit better, because I'll try to do another vlog, for September and go from there. But yeah, I really just, you know, lately I have not been enjoying contemporaries. I really haven't. This is why I've been trying to get into my historical romances, because I just you know, those were kind of like my first loves, historicals. I really enjoyed historicals. So I'd rather just read those until I kind of could get my mind back into, like, you know, the contemporaries again. I've really been disappointed in a lot of contemporaries. It just, I don't feel the connections with the characters. It just feels more lust-based than love-based, you know? And I just feel like there's too many authors out there that are trying to all compete with that TikTok crowd. And the TikTok crowd, all they care about is how many F scenes are in the book. That's it. Anyways, like I said, hopefully September will be a little bit better. If I kind of stick to, I'm thinking maybe if I could stick to historicals, maybe I can read some more like alien ones, because I do like alien ones. Those are kind of fun. I'm thinking maybe I might get into some paranormals, maybe, because I like pretty soon, like, it's gonna be spooky month, so I think I definitely want to try to get through some books in September that I could talk about in October. So I may end up reading some that I just don't talk about in September. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish I had a better month, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I will see you all on the next video. All right, bye.